Hello and welcome to a new episode of AVFC Extra. I'm James Rushton. Today I'm joined by Martin Laurence. He's Who Scored's head of content. And yeah, he's here today to talk about one thing, and that's the big issue that's on all our minds. It's about Aston Villa's positive new era and how they move on from he who shall not be named, how they spend the 100 million he's left behind. But yeah, of course, we have to speak about Jack Grealish, but we move on to the positive new chapter that Villa have got. They've got Emi Buendia through the door. Ashley Young's come back. Then we got Danny Ings and, of course, Leon Bailey. Myself and mine also spoke positively about the rumour of Todd Cantwell coming in, and we also kind of challenged that. And we asked Martin and his big recruitment brain of who he would bring in if he was in charge of actually spending all the money. It was a really positive chat, and I hope you enjoy it. Hope you're not too sick of hearing Jack Grealish's name either, because we're moving on to a new chapter now, and up the Villa. Hope you enjoy the chat.
You are listening to AVFC Extra, a no-nonsense look at the club we all love. Brought to you by the Claret and Blue podcast.
It speaks volumes that I've just had a third child.
Yeah,
literally a few weeks ago, and that hasn't been the most stressful thing in my life right now. So it says a lot. But I'm all right. I'm better than I thought I'd be. I guess. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I had just to show off, I had my little season ticket come through today.
Oh, nice.
And look, let's talk about it, man, because there was a part of me that realised, and we have to talk about it again, I am not going to see Jack Grealish in a Villa shirt, and we haven't seen him since before or at the outset of the COVID pandemic. That hurts me, and I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that rankles the most, I think, and one of the things that I think a lot of Villa fans would have been hoping would keep him or would encourage him to stay. Maybe not that would be the main reason, but it's certainly an incentive to stay, to have one last season in front of a full house or close enough. That is a massive shame, because we are headed in the right direction. It was a massive opportunity, but we have to move on. So yeah, that, like you say, I think that was one of the most disappointing things for sure.
I think as well, what I'll be personally disappointed about, because I know how much stuff you do, for Who Scored, how much Villa stuff that you promote from Who Scored.
Mm-hmm.
The Jack Grealish was always featuring in there quite highly, mate. So we need Buendia now to kind of get the 7.9 ratings and be in the team of the week.
That's it. Yeah, well, Buendia is good for stats. We shouldn't be short on stats for him, for sure. It was nice because Jack shared a lot of our content as well. He obviously endorsed it. A lot of players endorse when they're being praised, but it was nice to get shares and stuff from him. I'm sure we still will, but not at the club that I'd like it to be. But yeah, like you say, it is a shame in that sense as well. But we've got good players coming in. Yeah, Buendia, I'm really, really excited about. Probably the most excited about of the new arrivals so far. And I hope, in a way, this sort of frees him up a bit even more. He obviously has to take on a bit more responsibility. But it was, as much as it looks amazing on paper, Buendia, Grealish, Bailey is tough. It's tough to sort of work your head around. They could play together, obviously, but it would have been very, very attacking. And our holding midfielders aren't amazing defensively, I don't think, to be able to do that. So we changed now. The one thing about Buendia that I like, and I think is another thing that's a massive asset, is his work rate. And it's part of the reason, and I'm sure we'll probably get onto it, that I think he may adopt a new role in time at Villa. Obviously, a lot of people are saying he'll be a number 10. He's actually never played there for Norwich, literally never started a game at number 10. But he has said himself, almost like exactly the same as Grealish, he likes to play in the middle, like he likes to pop up in the middle. But I was always of the opinion that Grealish was better off the left. And Daniel Farke was obviously of the opinion that's true of Buendia off the right. So that'll be interesting, because it's a juggling act now, isn't it? Because Leon Bailey can obviously play either side, but he's just had a very good season off the right. Buendia's played off the right, so you would then expect maybe Buendia to play centrally, but I personally think he could play as an 8. I think we might see that, just because, to my mind, Dean Smith's favourite formation is still 4-3-3 if he has the personnel to do it. And I think he'll feel like he does now. So yeah, it will be interesting because I was looking at the formations that we have played under Smith, and it's basically changed season after season. In the Championship, it was 4-4-1-1 or 4-1-4-1. Last season, it was very much 4-3-3, and this season, very much 4-2-3-1. So they're similar formations. Don't get me wrong; no radical changes there, just slight sort of nuances. But with the signings that he's made, particularly Danny Ings, it will be interesting to see if we're going down a new route. It's going to be very interesting to see that first game. It would have been interesting to see the Sevilla game. Obviously, we don't know what's going on there. I don't know who would have featured in that game anyway, but it would have been interesting to see the formation more so, I think, than the new signings almost. To give you an indication of what he's starting the season with.
Yeah, no, there was every chance, I guess, that we could have seen. I don't want to lay on to you because I don't know if it would have been worse to see him, he who shall not be named, in a final pre-season game alongside your Bailey and your Buendia and possibly your Ings. But I guess this thing has been on a card for a while, and we're here today to speak about hopefully an exciting new era for Aston Villa. And I think the best way to do that, Martin, is to look at kind of how we've got here. Mm-hmm. What has happened? So the signing you made, you're Ashley Young, you're Buendia, Leon Bailey, and of course Danny Ings. So there's a lot to kind of take on there because any single one of those signings, probably bar Ashley Young, would have been the biggest signing of the summer for a number of clubs, and Villa have made 3, if not 4 of them. Because if Burnley got or Watford got Ashley Young, that's the biggest signing of their summer. To be fair, with all due respect, he's still good enough for the top level. But you've added 3 alongside that who are marquee signings. So a lot to digest, and we have done separate episodes on them, but altogether, it's about how they replace Jack Grealish. Christian Purslow spoke about it yesterday, mate. He said, obviously, the second the news dropped, he was there live speaking to Villa fans, and I wanted to know what you made of that kind of that chat from him. Actually, what did you feel? Did you think he was going to say, "Oh no, reverse"? He's coming back down? Because actually, I genuinely did.
No, I didn't. I can't say I was that optimistic. It was good. I think a lot of people were calling for that sort of transparency. I think, obviously, we follow Villa Twitter all day, so you basically saw the fans were basically split. We want an announcement from the club about where we're going forward, and I think they probably took that on board. Whether they'd have done that anyway, I'd like to think they would, but I think they probably listened to the voices as well. And there was obviously the understandably bitter Villa fans who were like, "Do not do a montage of Jack Grealish." I think they softened the blow with the it was the Purslow came first, wasn't it? And then the Grealish sort of montage, I think. So I think they just sort of balanced it out actually quite nicely, and I think they've dealt with the situation well. I certainly think the sort of the shock signing of Danny Ings, which was just remarkable, how that was kept quiet, was smart, and clearly they got that done extremely quickly. And I think with this Grealish departure in mind, because there was obviously a delay in the Grealish move, and I think that was deliberate on Villa's part, and they probably got some sort of agreement from City, in my opinion. Conjecture, but that's just how it looks to me. So that they could sort of get Bailey and then Ings in over the line. Because it was interesting, obviously, all the noise before, especially when we signed Buendia, was, look, he's being signed to support Jack Grealish, not as a replacement. But I think when we started to get linked with Bailey, I was like, I'm not sure I buy it now, to be honest. And then, look, I don't blame them for saying that. But the fact that Purslow has come out and said, look, we've identified 3 players that can sort of compensate for what we've lost in Jack Grealish, sort of goes against what they were saying initially, in a way. I'm fine with it. I don't mind being misled by the club too much, as long as it's with the club's best interest at heart. I always think that's fine. Not one of these fans who demands to know everything and for it to come out, because we were so pleased that Danny Ings signing was just kept completely secret. That sort of stuff doesn't happen if you're almost too transparent with the fans, I think, sometimes. There's a line to draw.
I think the other announcement of the day was obviously Grealish to City, and it's been spoken about at length. We obviously know it's happened and people are pretty tired of speaking about it, but I think the big thing for me with that announcement, firstly, as a jokey matter, there was like a 6-second one, and it had one of my favourite bands in, New Order, and his calves, you know, he's looking at his calves, and I felt, you know, when it's all that visual stimulation and the audio stimulation, you're like, that's my favourite band, that's my favourite player, and that's this trademark, you know, it's tough to take.
Yeah.
But before they recorded the breaking episode about Grealish, what Ash and Dan were joking about, what is if he turns around the M6 now, he's coming back, you know, he's seen Bailey and Ings come through the door, he wants back in. I was thinking, we couldn't acquire these players without Grealish leaving for a variety of issues, and it's not because we're bankrupt. It's because you have to organise these things in a certain way for it to be, to work essentially for a football club. Because no one's just we've got rich owners, but we don't have stacks and stacks of cash just knocking around at the club. It's coming from the owner's back pocket, so it needs to be sustainable in that way. But also, you know, I was just thinking, no, he needs to go now, push him out the door, because I want this new era. I want this Aston Villa stuff I want this new thing to occur. I want the movements to be happening, because, you know, as you said, do you think we will be buying Bailey, Buendia, and Ings? And I mean, fans can argue, would have just Buendia and Grealish, and that would be fine. But I think we're weighting the squad in a much more positive way, Martin.
Yeah, I think we are. Just like you said, you have to, as much as a fan, you're watching it and you're seeing it being linked to all these players, and you're still clinging on to Grealish and the fact that he could stay. And the argument has been, look, we don't need the money, and we definitely don't need the money, but it is still a business. You still need to be realistic. So when we were being linked with, like I said, it was that Bailey one. I was excited with the tinge of, okay, I think this is happening now, basically. So yeah, but it was a profile of signing that was enough for me to be like, okay, I'm all right, I'll live, sort of thing. And like I said, the Danny Ings one was the one that was just like, okay, I'm excited now. He's going, but I'm still excited. So that's why I think they just played that to a T, really. And hopefully, there'll be 2 more in the door.
Fingers crossed.
I would hope. I think, based on certainly what you'd say, based on what Perslow said in his video, I would say maybe Cantwell looks unlikely. I would be very surprised. I think we could get him, and it wouldn't be. It wouldn't. I personally, because it does look like you're just cramming in far too many attackers. I'm not sure it would be. I think it would still give you flexibility, and he does play off the left. And all of a sudden, we don't really have that many players that are great off the left, which most clubs do, because they're usually right footers. We're now quite well stacked on the right. But yeah, that's why I see, obviously there's options now, isn't there? There's Bailey can play on the left, Watkins can play on the left, which will be interesting to see if that happens. I certainly don't think they'll start the season in that way. I think Watkins would like to remain as a central striker, and he'll be given the chance to do so until they feel maybe Ings is better placed. Or of course, Ings has played wide. I don't think he's got the same threat or skill set that Watkins does, or the same experience in that position, because Watkins did play two full seasons, I think, at Brentford from the left.
Okay.
The first of those was very good, very, very good. The noises were that they always saw him as a striker, but they had other players in place. Whether one of them probably would have been Scott Hogan initially, I think, if I'm right, which is mad to think.
Throwback.
Exactly. And then Neil Maupay as well. So yeah, then he got his chance, but he was a threat off the left, and his movement's good enough to play there. But like I said, I think he's undoubtedly sees himself as a central striker, and Dean Smith has said on countless times that that's his best position. I think and his sort of work rate from the front is what sort of probably wins that for him. But it gives you the option, doesn't it? So it'll be interesting. And then there's too many permutations, almost too many options. I can't get my head around it. I don't think any Villa fan could really say with any certainty what system we're going to play.
Okay.
Even with Twanzebe looking imminent, there's talks of a back 3. Don't see it personally. Really don't see it. I think But like again, could do it, which is great. It gives you that flexibility. And having done a podcast for a while now with Jonathan Wilson, who sort of rams home, it's not about your best 11. It's not. There's no such thing as a best 11. It's all about the squad. And I've come around to that idea. Certainly, we saw that a lot in the summer, didn't we, with England?
Yeah.
It gives you the chance to tailor your tactics to the opposition. Whether Dean Smith is that sort of coach, I didn't think he was personally, and I would still sort of be reluctant to say that he is. I still think he plays how he wants to play. He's never really, on too many occasions, maybe when he's played against Man City, and that's it almost, where he's thought we go defensive here, we'll go a bit defensive. He has played with a back 3 and 5. I think I looked into it. I think he started 7 games with a back 3 for Villa in his time at the club, and they've won 2 and lost 5. So you would look at that as he's probably done that against the stronger teams. But he's only played a front 2 twice, and that was entirely forced. And I'm pretty sure that was Samatta and Davis.
Yeah.
And I think even just considering that, how long ago was that? 18 months ago, something like that.
Yeah, it's still because it was the whole Project Restart. It still feels like it just one big season, so it's like the start of last season almost to me. It's wild
that we were lining up with Samatta and Keane and Davis up front, and look at us now. So yeah, but we need perspective. It's going to hurt Jack Grealish leaving. It's going to hurt for a while.
Yeah.
I loved him. Like he's just
you can hear it in your voice, mate. You're always cracking up.
He's an absolute joy, in my opinion. Or he was. I don't love him as much anymore, but I still I'm in the sort of wishing well camp until he played against Villa. Certainly, I got a hell of a lot of stick for my comments on that a little while ago, saying that I thought he was probably the best player Villa ever had. I'd stand by it personally. I accept that I didn't see Gary Shaw, I didn't see Gordon Cowans in the flesh, but Grealish is almost more than a footballer, isn't he now? That's why he's worth that amount of money, not only to Villa but to Man City, in my opinion. He's arguably the most commercial player in the world at the moment. He arguably is. You've got Gary from Preston, who's 42, who got a little bit too excited about panning to Jack Grealish warming up for England. You know what I mean? It was proper hysteria. Yeah. And it took us all a bit by surprise as Villa fans, because we've known it. Of course we have. But yeah, he's a superstar. If he's not now, then he certainly will be. So you're always going to miss that. But it's time now that we strengthen the squad. And I think the way they're going about it is the right way. He's irreplaceable. So you have to do it intelligently. And I watched the video that you did with Josh Williams, who was saying the exact same thing. You've got to plug those gaps. And it was pertinent that Perslow came out and basically said that. You almost got the exclusive just from someone else.
I had a joke with him. He's literally just been on to speak about Danny Ings, so I don't know when this, in terms of the timeline, when these podcasts come out, but I just like to. You've got it spot on there, because look, there's eventually going to be a time where, and this separates the Grealish legend talk. We are just going to stop talking about it. He's just. You know, and you never stop talking about your Gary Shaw, I guess, and your Paul McGrath. So, you know, I don't stop hearing from my dad about Brian Little. I never saw him play, and my dad was very young when he was playing. So that's the difference, I think, is because of the choices made. It is what it is. And what I think, though, is that this could be this is really positive for Villa, because they've landed that 100 million fee, and that essentially, Wes Eden said, there's a plan here, a 1.6 billion plan to make this club completely sustainable. And I only feel like this advances that plan now. And that plan was going to exist. You know, that plan was made when Grealish had one of his massive calves in Tottenham ready to jump ship. So I can only feel like this advances that plan, Martin. And, you know, the money we have, and that what that allows us to do now is move and buy and acquire top quality talent, because you've poached Ashley Young as he was making a move to Burnley. You've poached Buendia as he was in the palm of Arsenal's hand for the best part of the year. Danny Ings has been taken off the table for either Man City, Spurs, or a top 6 side that wants him. Probably at a top 6 side now, to be fair. You know, these are massively positive moves, and I think that one man club, that one that tag that always follow there. You can only play with Jack Grealish. It's gone, and we have a real chance here to not just win the Twitter banter war of saying, "Oh, we can play without Jack Grealish," but you've got the fact that you can, and the fact that you can, and we didn't always know we could, Martin.
Yeah,
we didn't know that, so yeah,
completely agree. I think it's important as well, just in terms of a message, to move away from that. Even because I think even the signings we'd made, if Grealish had stayed, people would still say, "You're all Jack Grealish. It's all about Jack Grealish," and in a way, it would have been, just because, not necessarily because of his ability, but just because of what he meant to Aston Villa. But the fact that we can move on from that now, you were never going to get, I think, to where Villa wanted to be with a reputation of being a one-man club. You even had Liverpool, who struggled to win, never won the Premier League with Steven Gerrard there. So I think this was, as much as it pains you to even think it, this was probably always going to happen at some point. And now it's time to crack on. Do you know what I mean? We've got far better squad depth now than we did. I think our second 11, I personally think it would probably stay in the Premier League. And when you're in that sort of shape, that's when you know you're heading in the right direction. I think when you've got players, it's tough, because even I am like, how are we going to fit all these players into the team?
Yeah.
But when you've got players where you're thinking he has to start and he's not certain to start, that's when you're doing well. That's when you're doing very well. That's when the message becomes clear that you mean business, I think. So if you sign a Danny Ings and maybe he doesn't start every game, that's a statement from a club like Villa, from a club from where we've come from over the last few years. The progress is remarkable, like genuinely remarkable, in my opinion. Just like I said, just looking back 18 months to the position we were in, and now there'll still be fans who say there's certain players in the team that aren't good enough to take us to the next level. Maybe, but I would say most teams that we are competing with have players. Most fans of those sort of teams, you like your Arsenals, your Evertons, your West Hams, your Leeds, they've all got players where they think, "Oh, we could do better there." I don't think you're ever going to have an 11 where it's like we're set. I don't think that's a good thing. Almost, you want to be able to improve. Do you know what I mean? In a realistic way. So I think the fact that we've signed these players and it's difficult to know who's going to start, as much as it's almost tormenting to the brain, you're just like, I don't know how this is going to work. It's a good thing. Like there's rotation there, and there will be injuries. So yeah, I'm really, really intrigued to see how we line up at the start of the season. Whether we get a new friendly in place, I don't know. Hopefully we will. But really intrigued. I think he's almost Dean Smith has almost done a slight favour by the fact that there's a couple that maybe aren't 100%, maybe haven't trained. So the decisions will be made almost for him initially, and then he's got that time with the squad to sort of work out what he wants to do almost. So yeah, it's exciting. It's very, very exciting.
I think a key point for me in particular was thinking about the space in and I know you lose the character and the ability, but also the space. And I was thinking, you've got Carney Chukwuemeka coming through, you got Aaron Ramsey and Jacob Ramsey, and also you got Brad Young and Louis Barry, who might be off on a loan move by the time this podcast comes out. You got a lot of players who could have looked at that left position. You got a lot of players who could have looked at that central midfielder as a 10, and Jack Grealish took those spots, and those spots would never. It's never going to be available. And if you're a Jacob Ramsey and Aaron Ramsey or Chukwuemeka, you want to be the guy. You just don't want to be, I'll be very happy being the substitute player for Aston Villa and, essentially cleaning Jack Grealish's boots. You want to be the Jack Grealish, and there was no pathway there for those players. And look, you can make the argument Chukwuemeka might be more box to box. Aaron Ramsey, Jacob Ramsey, especially more box to box. Louis Barry can fill on the other wing if he wants to play up front. Aaron Ramsey can be a 10. He doesn't have to be on the wing. You can make those arguments, but the truth is that there was a spot less there for the talent coming through, and the opportunities there to unlock a lot of talent at Villa. So I don't know what your kind of outlook is on these youth talents, but it feels like there's been a lot of possibility now for them at Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think I think the important one now is obviously there's a lot of call, and even myself, I'd probably still argue that we do need a midfielder. We do need a central midfielder, but certainly not in any of those players' mould. I think we need a strong, as much as anything, just a physical presence. I'd love some height in there. We can't be having 3 5'6" players in the midfield. It's going to be tough. So yeah, that will be really interesting to see if they do get another midfielder. If they don't, like you say, while they're not the same sort of player, it does give the likes of Chukwuemeka and Ramsey in particular that kick to be like, okay, yeah, we've got a chance here. We'll get chances in the cups, and we can see that pathway. Like you say, if you can't see the pathway, that's when you get disillusioned, I think, as a youth footballer. He says as if he's a youth footballer. But yeah, if you can't see that pathway, it becomes more difficult. So it'll be interesting to see if they do make a signing there. I think they should. A defensive midfielder. I'd love to see Sander Berger personally. I think he's the sort of profile that we need. But if it doesn't, and you're then relying on obviously Dougie and John McGinn maybe to be a bit more defensive, I think that's been talked about quite a lot, that John McGinn is being asked to be more of a 6 moving forward than an 8 maybe. Then yeah, it's certainly there's space there, like you say, even in the squad, because at the moment the squad is so strong that you're struggling to even get a youngster or 2 on the bench, which I think people always like to see, don't they? They always like to, even if they don't get on, just the prospect of, we could see Chukwuemeka today, is a nice thing for Villa, for any fan. So I'm torn on it. Like, I would like to see those players get a chance. It's difficult. Like I said, Jacob Ramsey's probably already there. He's already in Dean Smith's mind. And then Chukwuemeka, I think, is the one. I think he's the obvious one who's just stands out for so many reasons. Such an exciting prospect, the most exciting, I think, in the Villa Academy and since Grealish probably. So he's one I'd love to see more this season, but at the same time, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We're spending a lot of money, so yeah.
So yeah, we can't expect these players to suddenly be, 2021 Jack Grealish and fill that slot in the side, whether it be the left or as a 10. But I think one player who stands out that Villa have just signed that could carry a lot of the burden is Emi Buendia. And I think a statement was made today, sort of 6th of August, where, the guy who was wearing number 10's just walked out the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without fanfare, Emi Buendia's got his shirt on his back. Mm-hmm. And look, it's not a number you retire. You're not going to retire many numbers at the Villa because there is such a high standard to be a legend because of what we've achieved in the past. But look, Emi Buendia's come straight out the door with the 10 on. He's shot creating actions and stuff when he was in the Norwich side that failed to make an impact in the Premier League. It stands alone that this guy could hold most of that weight. I don't know if you agree, Martin.
Yeah, I think in terms of vision, and in terms of his sort of weight of pass and the way he sees the game, I don't think there's a massive difference there. I think he's that good in terms of his creativity and his vision. The key thing with Buendia was always his link up with Teemu Pukki, and it requires a very intelligent striker. So that is, I would say, probably another string in sort of Watkins' bow, and where we've already seen it in pre-season in that first half against Walsall. That you need those intelligent runs to get the best out of Emi Buendia, and he does a lot of his best work, not only from the middle of the pitch, but dropping in a little bit. You see a lot of his assists are through balls from the halfway line. It's a trait of his game and he did it in the Premier League as well. He got 7 assists, it's a decent tally. He just really struggled to find the net in the Premier League for one reason or another. He's obviously bounced back and got confidence with hatfuls in the Championship. Different league, but I think that experience of the Premier League will certainly help him. The way he's gone away and then improved again, I think he's in a great place to attack this Premier League. And I think, like I said, he's the one I'm excited about. I think he's class. What he doesn't have that Grealish has is the ability to carry the ball that basically nobody has, in my opinion, because it's not Grealish's sort of pace, and although he is quick, he's not like a dribbler per se, but just the way he moves is very, very unique. they've obviously gone a different route with Leon Bailey, who's rapid and got a lot of skill. So they've replaced his dribbling, but it's not in the same way, if that makes sense. And so they've gone for the dribbling of Bailey, basically, and the creativity of Buendia. And then you've got Danny Ings in the mix, who I'm not sure he really compensates for too much of Jack Grealish's abilities, other than maybe his intelligence. He's a very intelligent player. He's a good link-up player. So maybe that's what they've looked at there. So the one for me, and it always has been since we signed him, Emi Buendia. I was buzzing when we signed him. I think he's got a big season ahead of him. I don't think we should put too much pressure on him. And at least now he does. That's the thing. Like, these players that come in, it's not all about them. So they don't have to light it up straight away, because there's options there now, which is another important thing, really. And that's probably most pertinent to Leon Bailey, because he's the one who's coming into a new league, and he's the one that's a bit more of a wild card, I'd say. He's not overly consistent, but when he's on it, he's such a handful. He's so quick, so direct, very, very good, and he's improved technically in terms of his decision making last season. So yeah, he's the one where it's like, we need to give him a little bit of time, and I think they will. I don't think he'll start the first game personally. I'd be surprised if he did. So yeah, but yeah, Buendia is the one I'm really excited about. Danny Ings is the one that I'm most intrigued about.
Okay,
just that's the one that throws you tactically, isn't it? That's the one that's like, okay, are we playing a 3? Could he play a 2? Only ever played a 2 up front twice, like you say, so it looks unlikely. But Ings can drop off. He's not a 10. I don't think we can say that he's a 10. And that he could. I could be proven wrong, but I'd be surprised if he played as a 10. He can play as a support striker for sure. I think that's arguably where he's best. And somebody made a comment to me, and I'm not claiming it as my own, but I can't remember. I can't say who it was. Just on Twitter, that it'd be interesting to see if they're trying to do something similar to what Tottenham do with Kane and Son, with Ings and Watkins, because basically Son plays off the left, but he's almost a central striker. He pops up in the middle that much. So that might be what they're sort of looking to do a little bit with those two. Sounds good, doesn't it? Whether it works.
So that's actually really good that you brought out, because the reference that was made in the last podcast, and I don't think Dan should clip this together, is Josh Williams said, well, you got a Bergkamp and an Henry. So, okay. You got that foil and the dynamism. So it works. If that comes true, Martin, buzzing.
As a partnership, it works. Like I see it on paper. I see it as a partnership. I see it working. It's just whether Dean Smith sees it, whether he's willing to change that much to move to that system, because he's never liked it. He's never fancied it. Even within games, he's very, very rarely changed the 2 up top. How many times have we seen Keenan Davis come on the wing when you're clearly, like, he's a target man? You'd have thought he goes straight up top and you just crowd the box. Doesn't even do it mid games. So it is difficult to see. Again, nice to have the option, but I just keep talking myself round in circles as to what we're going to do. But yeah, I think another reason I see the sort of 4-3-3 as being probably the starting choice is that I don't see Bailey as a winger. I really see him as a wide forward. Doesn't really do a lot defensively, probably less than Grealish in that respect. So I see him as a wide forward in a 3 rather than a winger in a 4-2-3-1, and certainly rather than a winger in a 4-4-2, for example. I don't see that. I don't think that works. He'd have to change his game a little bit, and I don't think that's what you want. I don't think he's a flair player, and he's been signed to do that. So I don't think there'll be a lot of work going into him to sort of turn him into a more of a midfielder. So yeah, that's why I see it. I see a 4-3-3 personally.
I think Dean Swift says it. He rarely changes, but again, the options are there. I think the most intriguing thing are the options. But I wanted to know from you, Martin, of this new era. I think we're speaking kind of on the fringes of this new era, because we don't know what happens with the friendly on Saturday as of recording. the first game of the season, it isn't long away at all. It's very, very close. So I just want to get your early prediction of who will be the man to watch for Villa next season, of the whole squad considered. The youth talents, the new signings, we can't speak about who could come in. I think we'll finish when we speak about, who you would want to see come in. But the existing squad, who's the guy to watch then?
Not necessarily in terms of I think he's going to have this amazing season, but I think it's a really important season for Douglas Luiz, personally.
Okay.
Just because he's been patchy. If we see the Douglas Luiz that started last season, he looks like one of the best holding midfielders in the league. But at times he just looks a bit anonymous. So I think he's one of the most interesting players in the squad. If you were looking at a sellable asset, I think you look at Douglas Luiz first as one who can make the club some more money. And look, people will say we don't need the money. I get it, but it's a business. You still sell players and sign players. You don't just sign. So he's a player that I'm not sure Dean Smith is wholly convinced about. I think he's in the current squad. If they don't sign anyone, he starts. But it will be interesting to see, because that's what people are saying. We need to sign a defensive midfielder. So I guess they're saying we need an improvement on Luiz, maybe not McGinn. Some people might say McGinn. But so that's why I think it's a massive season for him. If he can string together a good season over the entirety, not be amazing week in, week out, but not have these sort of fluctuations of form that he's had since he's been at the club. And he's still a massive, massive player to Aston Villa. I think when he was playing that well at the start of last season, he was the one player I was worried, and everyone was worried, was just he's going back to Man City, isn't he? Fernandinho's off and Douglas Luiz is just going to go back. Maybe the fact that his form actually dipped prevented that. I don't know. So yeah, I think he's the one. I think he's got a big season, a point to prove, I think. So one to watch in that respect. In another respect, I'd love to see Chukwuemeka get some games. I think it's another big season for Ezri Konsa. Can he continue to kick on? I do think he sort of dipped a little bit towards the end of last season. Had a great season overall, but I do think he sort of wavered a little bit because first 20, 25 games I thought he was outstanding, just so consistent. So I think he's got a point to prove, because there's players now that have gone ahead of him in the pecking order for England as well. If you look at Ben White, who's obviously made a massive move this summer, and he's got the likes of Ben Godfrey as well, and they're all very similar ages. So there's a big season for Ezri Konsa to prove that I should be in that reckoning. So I hope he has a massive season as well. Out of the sort of existing squad, those are the ones I'd pick out probably.
So yeah, I think as we close then, because it is an exciting time to be a Villa fan, no matter what has occurred in the last few days, because we've had the shock signing of things, we've had the tantalising little kind of breadcrumbs of your links to Cantwell, and I think that there was a few, and Tammy Abraham as well. It was an exciting link, and you had Buendia and Ashley Young come in, and then Leon Bailey. So it has been overall a decent summer, no matter what has happened, and I find it very hard to challenge that opinion. But it's not over yet, which is probably the most exciting thing. There could be, a few more signings. A name bandied around was Todd Cantwell, who you mentioned that you probably might not go for. The reason I would go for him is because he probably isn't the immediate Jack Grealish replacement, but I think he's essentially the Jack Grealish cosplayer, if you know what I mean. He's someone you can put in there and you squint and it's all normal, essentially, until you really focus. But on the other hand, I was thinking about this as well. A lot of people write him off in the same way that Jack Grealish had it. A lot of you don't have to go far to find Villa fans who wanted him bunged off to Middlesbrough. In exchange for Jordan Rhodes, not so long ago, actually. I think 4 seasons ago. So a long time in football, but not in our recent memory. It's still fairly fresh, considering all we've been through. But Todd Cantwell, there's value for money that's been wasted, and there's definitely better options. But I think Villa buy the personality as well, and the work ethic that might be there, and what they see That's why you get your Danny Ings instead of maybe your Adam Armstrong for a little bit cheaper. Probably could have eventually a higher ceiling, but that's why you kind of go for that immediate option. But, I'm open to the discussion, Martin, and what you've got to think about that link.
Yeah, no, I'd take him 100%. And I think what you say is important. I think he's got an arrogance about him. He's just got a bit about him, basically. There's not you can't really put it that any better than that. He's got a swagger. I thought the way that he came into the Premier League, he'd obviously played most of the season before in the Championship, but that was sort of his breakthrough season. And there wasn't anyone who was really like, he was a top prospect at Norwich, don't get me wrong, they regarded him highly, but there wasn't anybody else really in the country who was like, oh, we need to watch out for this kid. So the way that he took to the Premier League with that level of confidence was very, very impressive. Even there's been videos, he was in the penalty shootout against Tottenham that Norwich won in the Cup, and he's walking up and he's doing like poopy uppies, and then he's shushing the crowd and stuff. It's like, that's a special type of player in terms of mentality, to have that level of confidence, and that's what Grealish obviously had. So I like him in that sense. He's got a swagger about him. I think where he could be a good signing as well is maybe he's the sort of player who wouldn't necessarily kick off if he wasn't playing every game. I think he'd expect to play, but he's still young, so he might be sort of more accepting of the fact that he's signed for now, but he's also very much one for the future. So yeah, I'd definitely be pleased with the signing. The one thing that would concern me is I think Norwich would be asking for a similar fee as what they got for Buendia, and I just don't think they're. I think that Emi Buendia's levels above technically, and Cantwell's a very good player technically, but I think Emi Buendia's output is that much better that would concern me. I know he's younger than Buendia and he's English, and those two things are both important. But I think it would, if we'd signed him before, or if it was for a lower fee, it would smack of desperation a bit less. And my view now is that we don't need to be desperate in that position. So if we went and signed Cantwell for 40 million, to me that looks a bit panicky, because like you say, there is probably better value out there. I know they're looking at players that have Premier League experience, but if you look abroad, there's players with a similar caliber. I'd look at Damsgaard as one of those who's relatively similar to Cantwell. I think very confident player, similar build, but he's just proven himself on a massive stage at the Euros. So I would have thought that he's he would carry a higher fee, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They seem to have a pretty similar fee. So if you were telling me, which one of those two would you prefer? I'd probably go with Damsgaard personally. Whether that deal's possible, I don't know. But he's a player that I would like, but possibly not at the fee that's being suggested.
Is there kind of like a name then you'd pick out? I mean, we could speak about Axel Tuanzebe because it's a loan deal. I don't feel like there's that much to kind of go on, because we know what he brings. We know where he would potentially play. He's a likely incoming as well, based on all that we've heard on a loan deal. And of course, he'll sign an extension at Man United as a result of that loan deal. But I just wanted to know if there was like a name that you could pick off the top of your head as someone that Villa should go for to kind of not headline this new year, because we've got some high profile signings already, and I can't see us making a bigger signing than what's come through the door, because they've been pretty Hollywood as far as that's concerned. But just a name to kind of cap off. We've got the 100 million, we're spending, we're ambitious, we're moving on. Here's the final signing of the summer.
Yeah, like I said it a little bit earlier, I would be looking at Sander Berge. I really would. I just think he's strong defensively, he's massive, and he just drives with the ball. He had a sort of difficult season, and the worry would be injury concerns, because he had a bad injury last season. But the talent is there, and I think he's the sort of profile that we need personally. And he's I think he's 23, probably available for somewhere around 20 million, which is a fair price, a good price. So that's one that just springs out to me. That's just like, why has nobody done that already? I know Arsenal have been sort of linked I think they've been linked in a double swoop with Ramsdale, which confuses the hell out of me. But Berger's one, and the other one that I like the sound of, that it's more Villa fans who are sort of suggesting it rather than any sort of real links, would be Yves Bissouma as well.
Okay.
Brighton in a similar mould, just very, very strong defensively, good with the ball. He's played under Potter, who I really like. He plays the game the right way. So I'd definitely take him. Another player who's been linked with Arsenal as well. But I think those two players are gettable. Bissouma would probably cost more, but maybe is a bit more proven in the Premier League. So either of those two, we're done, in my opinion, with Twanzebe as the sort of extra. I think that's it for me. Get Twanzebe and that's done. Even though that deal confuses me a little bit, I'm not going to lie. But we need a fourth centre-back. Not that he'd be fourth choice, but we need a number 4. Yeah. We need 4 centre-backs. And yeah, the central midfield. Like, I know James Ward-Prowse is the name that's been linked. There are things that I think he'd be great, but they're mainly mental attributes than technical attributes. Obviously, the set pieces is massive. And a huge asset to any club, but you don't sign a player for that amount of money because of set pieces. His leadership is the big one. I think it would be important. It would be a big plus, but I don't value. A lot of people saw the £25 million bid for Ward-Prowse as derisory. I came away with it just thinking, well, what's he worth then? I don't know what he's worth.
Yeah.
To my mind, he's not a £40 million player. He's extremely reliable. And that's great. That's exactly what you want from a central midfielder. You want reliable. But is he ever more than a 6 or 7 out of 10? Very rare. Is he ever less than a 5 out of 10? Very rare. But I don't think you pay somewhere close to £40 million for that. Is he 25, 26? He's not really young. He's a good age. So, he's a player I would like. But again, it's one of those where I personally saw the £25 million bid. I'm not surprised it was rejected. But I thought, I didn't think that was an undermining price in any way, personally. So I would rather go for a Berger or a Bissouma for that sort of price. Probably looking a little bit more for Bissouma, I would imagine. But I'd rather go for those two, bit younger, bit more defensive. I think that's what we need, bit more physical. So yeah, that's where I would look. I doubt the club are listening, but yeah, if they want to, that's my 2 cents.
Fingers crossed, because as you brought up, Josh nailed the club, the party line on the head.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got it, mate. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you very much for coming on. It's a very, very positive chat. And on a final note, then, where can people find you, Martin, to kind of bug you about your opinions and give you a lot of love, hopefully?
Well, yes, you find me at Who Scored a lot of the time. I'm the head of content there. Who Scored, which is one of the largest football statistics websites, if you're unaware of it. So yeah, you'll find me there. I write for the Guardian and Sky every now and again through them. And find me on Twitter, Martin Laurence 7. I think it's down on the screen. So yeah, well, my opinions aren't always that popular there, so I wouldn't necessarily endorse that. But go for it if you.
Yeah, would love to get you a little bit more love for your expertise. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on, Martin, and up the Villa, mate.
Yeah, up the Villa. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to AVFC Extra, an additional dose of Aston Villa content for you, brought to you by the Claret and Blue podcast team. If you enjoyed the episode, please do get in touch with us, get involved in the comment sections, tweet us at Claret Blue Pod, or leave us a review on iTunes. We really do appreciate it. We'll catch you again very soon with some more content. Until then, up the Villa.